Well, Stan Collymore, great to see you, albeit on Zoom. How are you and how you been keeping?
Fantastic. Had a nice break. I'm actually involved with Southend United these days. Of course, I joined Nottingham Forest from back in 1993. Forest now in the fifth tier of English football, but I'm back as sort of senior football strategist advisor. So I've taken a football holiday at the end of May till early June, and then it's going to be back full into it, getting players to help Southend United get out of the same league, of course, as Notts County, the noisy neighbours, or not so noisy neighbours these days in Nottingham. So yeah, very much involved in football, still broadcasting as well around the world, and incredibly excited that after 23 years, a club very close to my heart is back where it belongs, the top flight of English football. Firstly, huge congratulations to Steve, the players, owner, staff, and most importantly, Nottingham Forest supporters. I almost every year go and do a Q&A, an evening with somewhere in Nottingham. And every year it's like, do you think we can get back this year? Do you think we can get back? Mission accomplished. Forest will be visiting Anfield, Old Trafford, Stamford Bridge and the Emirates. So I'm absolutely buzzing. Really good to have a little summer break, ready to go back into the season.
Absolutely. Where were you when that final whistle at Wembley, where were you when that happened?
I was in France watching with a few friends, watching the telly. I have no nails. They still haven't grown back from that playoff final. I think that the thing for me was, I was invited by the club. Have reconnected with Forest over the last couple of seasons, and it's been fantastic to see after some, of course, dark days. And I was invited. I think it was a 0-0 draw. West Bromwich Albion 0, Forest 0. But I spoke to several people around the club, and I could see that something was building, something was growing. Young talent at the club, which the club has always developed, going all the way back to sort of Brian Clough era. And then I went back I took two mates of mine. One's a huge Wolves fan, but when I was at Forest, he ditched Wolves for the 2 seasons I was at Forest, and he came home and away. And every time, hello Paul, I'm saying hello to you. Every time he came to a game, which was 90% of the games, I scored. So I was like, you can't get to Wolves this week. You've got to come and watch us again. So I took them both to the Leicester FA Cup game. And the atmosphere around the City ground and chatting to people around, I was like, something serious is building here. You could cut the energy, you can feel the energy, you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. So in terms of seeing the progression of Forest to get to that playoff final, I know the hard work that was being done behind the scenes by the likes of Dane and, of course, the owner and most importantly, Steve, that came in and did a fantastic job. So I wasn't surprised that when it got to a playoff final, that first Forest won, and secondly, the supporters, it was incredible, the noise. I was watching it on TV. I so wished I was there. The noise, the support, when the final whistle went, people that had been to Munich and been to Madrid in tears, the younger generation of 20-somethings that didn't know what this felt like to be back in the Premier League. So I was in France watching it on holiday, and the neighbours must have thought I was absolutely crazy because I was just screaming and hollering. Genuinely excited for the club to be back in the Premier League. And I think that Nottingham Forest Football Club, if you look at, as a pundit, as a broadcaster, you have Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, traditionally as the 3 that have won the most. Big inner city clubs. And then latterly, you've got, my club, Villa, Leeds, West Ham, Newcastle. And I think that Forest can sit in between them with the history and the tradition of the 2 European Cups and the trophies and Brian Clough and the team that we played in that finished 3rd in the Premier League. I think that now the club is back in the Premier League, it can attract younger players. It can attract players that want to come and play for a big club in its own right. And like I say, I've always felt that if Forest can get back and stay in the Premier League for a couple of seasons, that it can occupy a unique space in the English top flight. So, yeah, was watching it on the telly, absolutely delighted and thrilled for the several generations of Forest fans that are going to be treated to top flight football again.
You talk about Leicester game in the FA Cup there, and also the Arsenal game, the Liverpool game. You know, that atmosphere can be intimidating at City Ground. I mean, how do you go into next season? I mean, it's one of them ones where you've not really got a lot to fear.
No, I think that when we were promoted, the team that Frank Clark took back up, look, we already had a good team. Don't forget the season before, it was Brian Clough's last season, relegated. Brian left. Some of his backroom staff had left. Some had stayed on, Liam O'Kane and Alan Hill. They were important in terms of getting us back up. Roy Keane went, and we had a very good nucleus of players to go back into the Premier League. Stuart Pearce. We brought in Lars Bohinen, Steve Chettle, Mark Crossley, Jason Lee. We had a very good squad of players anyway. But when you get in the Premier League, you doubt yourself. You think, am I good enough to? And I've spoken again, being a pundit for 15, 20 years, speaking to people like Gary Lineker and Michael Owen. Gary Lineker at Leicester when he was young lad had no confidence. He didn't think he was going to get in Leicester reserves, never mind Leicester's first team in the top division. Michael Owen knew he was going to score goals very early on. So players going in that wearing that famous Garibaldi red, some are going to feel at home straight away. Some are going to take a little bit of time to settle. So it's vitally important that Forest fans look, when we played Manchester United, the first game, and I think we'll refer to this again when we talk about the goals, it was I don't know, it's a Monday night or a Wednesday night, but it was the first game of the season on Sky in midweek. It was absolutely rammed. The noise was incredible. And we spooked Man United. It was a 1-1 draw. It was arguably one of their best teams ever. But the atmosphere carried us through so many games that season. And you felt it against Liverpool. You felt it against Arsenal. I thought Arsenal, that of course in the FA Cup put out not a weak team, but some of the youngsters, they were completely spooked by the City Ground atmosphere. You could feel it. You could sense it. You could see them on the pitch saying, oh, we're used to playing in big bowls, but this is close to the pitch. And crikey, they've won 2 European Cups and we've won not. These are big, aren't they? You could see it. So from my perspective, it's incredibly important for every single Forest fan to bring that noise every single game next season. I love the tifo. I love the banners. They weren't there. The first season I played for the club, the Trent End was still there standing. Then it was demolished, and then the second season of the Premier League, it was being the stand that we know now was being built. I would have loved to have played with all the flags and the banners and made in Nottingham and what have you. So all of that combined with a younger generation of Forest fans that can now take things on, it's going to be really, really exciting at the City Ground next season. And the only thing I'd say is bring the noise, bring that noise, bring that energy, game in, game out. There'll be games won, there'll be games lost, but continue to bring the energy.